Thanks for staying with us right here on Sunrise as we continue this Tuesday morning over the December period. Many of us are storming into the stores to buy gifts, food and other household items. Many financial transactions take place and we're not always aware of who is watching us or who is trying to rob us of our hard-earned cash. Now, card fraud is especially rampant over the festive season. Cloning of cards and stealing of passwords, it happens all the time. Joining us in studio to tell us more of what we should be looking out for and how to protect ourselves is Potgieter. She is the GM of Information Hub at the South African Banking Risk and Information Center. You at home can be part of our conversation by giving us a call on 011 447 1742 or 1620. Comments are also welcome on our Facebook and Twitter pages. Good morning to you, Susan, and thanks very much for joining us.
Morning, and thank you for the invitation.
Now, we're about to get into the festive season. Of course, people are getting paid and some are getting bonuses and things like that. What are some of the things that people need to look out for when it comes to card fraud?
There are three things that we find that seem to reoccur every festive season. The one is there's increased economic activity. That's to be expected. You've already alluded to that, and that creates increased opportunity for criminals to actually steal card information. In order to do card fraud, you need the information. Now, two ways to get the information. The one is to get hold of a genuine card and the PIN number, and the other is to compromise the data on the back of a card and then use it for different fraud types after the fact. So that's the one thing that I'd like to highlight, and we can talk a little bit more about that if you like. The second thing that happens is we find that there is increased activity around ATMs, and that is purely because of the opportunity that's created because of the high volume of people using ATMs in shopping centres and so forth, and that's of course where the cards are in fact then stolen predominantly. And then what we also find is we find that some criminals use the festive season in order to optimize their return on the theft of the card information in the first place by using that information fraudulently, especially to advertise cheap airline tickets and so forth. So those are the patterns that we've picked up over the years.
Okay, so just talk us through that point that you wanted to go deeper into in terms of like is it the cloning and getting the
how they steal the information, right?
Yeah.
Now we find that evolves as technology evolves as well. So historically, the most common way of stealing the information off the back of the card was through card skimming. I think most of the viewers are familiar with that. It's the little black device that some criminals acquire, and then if they get hold of the card, they swipe the card through the device that it stores the information. That's the one way. The other way is putting a skimming device on the mouth of the ATM, and that's why viewers need to be very vigilant when you use the ATM. If there's something stuck on the ATM, that's not normal. Don't use that ATM. Just report it to that bank. So those are two of the sort of the prominent card skimming ways. But more and more we find that card data is actually being compromised online as well. So that is through the deployment of malware onto PCs. And of course, when you shop online, you need to be very careful that you only shop with reputable merchants and that you use the products that the banks and the card associations make available to make your online shopping safer.
Okay, so in terms of like people will be going in and out of different stores and using their cards, but how do you make sure that when you're doing that you don't expose yourself?
Right. Now, having the card information is one thing, but in most instances, to use the card, you need a PIN number as well. So the first tip, and I believe this is a golden tip, is the first thing you need to do is you need to be very, very sure that you cover the hand that types in the PIN number. Don't be concerned about asking somebody just to give you a little bit of privacy. I think in this day and age, people don't get that offended as easily anymore about a request of that nature. But very important, make sure that nobody can see you type in the PIN number, because that, even if your card information is then compromised, it has limited value. So that's the one thing. try and always handle your card yourself. Many of the merchants now actually ask you to insert the card yourself, and that's awesome. That's awesome, because it lessens the opportunity for somebody with bad intent to actually remove your card and do something with it that they shouldn't be doing. So use your card yourself where you can, and make sure that the PIN number is, is always covered.
All right, we're also taking your calls this morning on 0114471742 or 0114471620. Feel free to call in and share your thoughts, comments, or experiences with us this morning. We're talking to Susan Potgieter this morning. Okay, so let's talk about where do most of these card frauds happen, and do we know why?
Well, that's an interesting question, because in our experience, wherever wherever there is economic activity, there's opportunity for dishonest people to compromise the information, as I said earlier on. But we find that over the festive season, there's certain categories of merchants where the spend using the compromised information actually occurs. And I don't think there's really that much of a surprise in it. Liquor stores. Why? Because in party time there is opportunity to resell those goods. It's when we talk about organized crime, the merchandise acquired is hardly ever only consumed by the criminals. They acquire merchandise that they can resell, and there I'm told that there is quite a black market for liquor. You'll also find that that in grocery stores and the sort of the general dealership type of categories of merchants, where for example, baby nappies can be bought, and things that you can actually sell on street. So so those are some of the trends that we actually pick up.
Okay, so and also in terms of if we're to look at trends or popular ways that people scam people, what are some of those that we've seen in recent times?
Oh, over the Christmas period, lots of advertising for bargains. Especially accommodation. Be very, very careful if you sort of book accommodation based on an advert that you saw on social media or in the classifieds. But I'm now talking about the sort of the one-on-one type of transactions, not through a reputable organization. Be very careful that you actually confirm that the accommodation exists in the first place. And that if it's at all possible that it can be viewed, lots of ways that you can do that. One has Google Maps and all of those facilities these days. And if the person offering you the accommodation or the bargain is not keen for you to to make contact or to engage, that should be a red flag. It really should be a red flag. Also, what happens a lot is the marketing is along the lines of, if you don't buy now, you're going to miss the opportunity. That pressure.
Yes, yes.
That should also be a red flag. And having to pay everything up front, that's another red flag. We also find that scams in general increase. We've heard stories about, and this changes. It's also seasonal, where you can buy, exotic pets online, and then, of course, the pets never arrive because something goes wrong, when they're imported and so forth. Romance scams continue. So yes, it's all shapes and sizes.
Okay, what are some of the things that one can do to protect themselves, and just obviously we've touched on what to look out for and what are some of the popular things, but what can I do?
I think if you understand what the trends are and what the criminals are doing, you are actually empowered to look after yourself. So, using your cards is so convenient. Shopping online is awesome. So I think stay and make it your business to stay informed. Follow Sabric on social media. We've got a Twitter account, we've got a Facebook account, we've got a website, lots of information on there. And it's usually basic tips and a little bit of basic tips with a little bit of common sense goes a long way. The banks themselves put out a lot of information to empower their, their customers to protect themselves. And I think just stay vigilant and take control. we can all take control of our own environments.
Okay, so well, we asked on Facebook what, to find out how to protect yourself, and these are some of the comments that people made. Chimone is saying, very good topic because card fraud do increase during festive season holiday. My question is, what must you do immediately once your card, obviously you have been defrauded, and they get better at frauding us every day. I hate this thing called card tapping. It might lead to fraud. Do you know what is that?
Yes, that is, thank you for that. That's an excellent question. I'd like to deal with it in 2 steps. The first one, very important. You must respond immediately when you realize that you might have been the victim of crime. The first thing is contact your bank. Now, if you don't have your bank's hotline number available, how are you going to contact your bank when you're in a panic situation?
So just have it on you.
Have it on your cell phone. So if the viewers take anything from this morning's program, they must all make sure that you've got your own bank's hotline on your saved on your contacts. Contact the bank immediately, get a reference number, and then the bank will guide you with regard to the next steps. So that must be done. Tap and Go. Tap and Go is a new product, and I can understand that consumers are a little bit anxious about it, but you know, it's about the convenience factor as well. And the good news is that the South African banking sector have really been very, very responsible with the deployment of it. Those transactions have limits on them. So currently you can buy for about 200 Rand by just tapping the card. The card's got to be in close vicinity of the POS device. If you lose it and somebody else uses it, there's a limited number of transactions on any one day. So the risk is curbed. Excellent.
Great stuff, Susan. Thanks very much for chatting to us. That was Susan Potgieter. She's the GM of Information Hub at Sabric. So much more is coming through right here on the show. Just stay with us.